Am I throwing rockets? These are missiles, yeah. It's gonna be some hell of a camp, and you get one hell of a camp. And I get seriously fucking way better this camp. Camp 100%. This is, yeah? We're going in here 100%. I'm going into this fight 100% Conor McGregor. Not 92. 100% Conor McGregor. So it has to be really meticulous. We were right there with the last one. As a unit we do it. Let's go, let's go. Am I throwing rockets? These are missiles, yeah. These are fucking missiles. Heat cameras, wallop feet.
You did an interview, I forget who it was, I apologize, you'll probably remember who it was, where you talked about the Chandler-Conor McGregor fight, and you're like, that's old news. Chandler comes out and says he's going to keep optimism about it. You, to be completely transparent at this point, as much as you want to be at least, how empty slate is that card? Or do you already have in your head what you're hoping to happen, and then you just kind of got to make it happen? Like, where are you in the development of the card? Because I know that's a massive ordeal for all parties.
So my entire focus right now is on the launch this weekend. I got boxing on Friday, the UFC on Saturday. Sunday, I'm watching the Patriots go to the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
And then Monday, we're all in on the White House fight. We don't have anything laid out. We're not, nothing. It'll all start Monday.
Okay, all right.
And no disrespect to Chandler. We love Chandler. Chandler's one of the, you don't have enough time in your show for me to talk to you about how awesome Chandler is. And you know how I feel about Conor and everything that he's done for the sport and this company. But yeah, that's not the fight we're doing.
Conor McGregor is already back in the gym training like his next fight is a done deal. But here's the wild part. The UFC hasn't even announced his opponent yet. While everyone else is sitting around waiting for official news, the Notorious One is grinding like his career depends on it, putting in work that would break most fighters. And what we're seeing from his training footage isn't just casual preparation. This is laser-focused, championship-level intensity from a man who clearly knows something the rest of us don't. Every single move he's making screams that this White House event fight is happening, whether Dana White wants to admit it publicly or not. Inside that gym, Conor isn't just working hard. He's been absolutely destroying himself with the kind of training sessions that separate legends from pretenders. We're talking grueling sparring sessions that go on for hours, conditioning work that would hospitalize regular people, and technical drilling that shows he's not just trying to get back in shape. He's trying to get better than he's ever been. Here's what's absolutely insane about this whole situation. Most fighters wait until they have a signed contract before they start serious camp. Conor's doing the opposite. He's betting everything on this fight happening, investing months of brutal preparation without any guarantee. That's either the confidence of a man who knows exactly what's coming, or the desperation of someone who can't afford to miss this opportunity. And honestly, looking at the intensity we're seeing, I'm leaning toward the first option.
An interview, I forget who it was, I apologize, you'll probably remember who it was, where you talked about the Chandler-Conor McGregor fight, and you're like, that's old news. Chandler comes out and says he's going to keep optimism about it. You, to be completely transparent at this point, as much as you want to be at least, how empty slate is that card? Or do you already have in your head what you're hoping to happen, and then you just kind of got to make it happen? Like, where are you in the development of the card? Because I know that's a massive ordeal for all parties.
So my entire focus right now is on the launch this weekend. I got boxing on Friday, the UFC on Saturday. Sunday, I'm watching the Patriots go to the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
And then Monday, we're all in on the White House fight. We don't have anything laid out. We're not, nothing. It'll all start Monday.
Okay, all right.
And no disrespect to Chandler. We love Chandler. Chandler's one of the, you don't have enough time in your show for me to talk to you about how awesome Chandler is. And you know how I feel about Conor and everything that he's done for the sport and this company. But yeah, that's not the fight we're going.
But here's where things get really interesting, because Dana White just threw cold water all over the rumors that have been building for months. When reporters kept pushing him about Conor versus Michael Chandler, the fight everyone assumed was happening, Dana shut it down completely. His exact words were that it's old talk and not even what they're looking at anymore. Think about that for a second. This Chandler fight has been teased for literally years. Fans have been begging for it. Chandler's been calling for it non-stop, and now Dana's acting like it was never even a real possibility. He went on to say that everything starts fresh on Monday, which basically means they're back to square one with Conor's opponent. That's either masterful misdirection, or the UFC genuinely has no clue what they're doing with their biggest star.
Dana, I mean, I know you're saying that's not the fight, but is there anything, I know Conor's been publicly asking for this, he wants to be on the card. Is there anything that you're looking for him to do to prove that he's responsible, he can be the guy to headline that card?
Conor and I have a great relationship. We talk a lot, through text, and he's definitely in the running for this fight.
Okay, I like that. I feel like we could keep prying, but I don't want to. Don't want to do it.
You can pry. If there's anybody that I would lay it out and say it to, it would be you.
Yeah, for the good.
Honest to God, on my daughter, all this starts.
When the media pressed Dana about his relationship with Conor, you could see him trying to walk this political tightrope. He praised Conor's impact on the UFC, called their relationship solid, and confirmed that yes, Conor is absolutely being considered for the White House card. But then came the massive caveat: nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is locked in. Everything depends on how they build the card from the ground up. Now here's what Dana isn't saying, but what's obvious to anyone paying attention. The UFC needs Conor way more than Conor needs the UFC right now. His whiskey business is printing money. His social media presence is bigger than ever. He doesn't have to fight if the terms aren't perfect. So when Dana talks about figuring everything out, what he really means is figuring out how to give Conor exactly what he wants while making it look like the UFC is still in control.
Operating plan was that Conor McGregor at the White House would fight Justin Gaethje. So there was also a belief. One thing Conor does not want to do, and again, this is not speculation. I'm protecting my source, but telling you, giving you some real information here, accurate. One thing Conor does not want to do is go down to 155 pounds. And he doesn't want to do it for a number of reasons, and none of which bigger than just going, why? What for? Like, that's not what this is about. It doesn't matter what this weight class is. Okay. And I'm very confident in telling you that Conor will not go down to 155, but that's where Justin Gaethje is also very helpful. There was a belief, and it was started by Gaethje, who was saying, and Coach Whitman backing him up, this is our last run. This is our last, we're going to do this thing.
And get this, Chael Sonnen just dropped some inside information that changes everything we thought we knew about this situation. According to Chael, the original plan for the White House event wasn't Conor versus Chandler at all. It was Conor McGregor versus Justin, and apparently this wasn't just some random idea thrown around in a meeting. This had serious momentum behind it. The reasoning actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. Conor has been adamant that he's done cutting to 155 pounds. Those weight cuts nearly killed him in the past, and he's not putting his body through that torture anymore. Meanwhile, Gaethje has been talking about this potentially being his last run, chasing those legacy-defining, big-money fights before he retires. For a brief moment, this matchup seemed like the perfect solution for everyone involved.
Yes, that you're going to bring in Paddy, and then you're going to throw him at a weight class that is not within the division of 155 pounds. So what do you do? Right, I'm sitting here telling you what you can't do. I'm sitting here telling you what's blown up. Well, as of right here, right now, Gaethje McGregor is still on the table. And I think that should be pulled. I do not believe that Conor should walk into a title fight, but moreover, I will tell you, and Conor will too, he's not going to 155. Now, the promotion does not yet have that through their head. They are still pushing for Conor and 155. This is all extremely accurate information. So I think there's a lot of options for McGregor. I really think that if it's not him versus Chandler, it should be.
But here's where Chael really opened our eyes to what's happening behind the scenes. He made it crystal clear that Conor is absolutely not fighting at 155 pounds, period, end of discussion. And he raised this brilliant point that nobody else is talking about. Bringing Conor back for an immediate title fight would actually create way more problems than it solves. Think about the chaos that would cause. You've got interim champions, you've got legitimate contenders who have been waiting in line, and then you just skip all of them for a guy who hasn't won a fight at lightweight in years. That doesn't just confuse what the interim belt means, it completely destroys the credibility of the entire division. Kale's basically saying that Conor will fight, but it has to be on terms that make sense for where he is right now in his career, not where he was 5 years ago.
My reaction is we will see. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. Obviously, nobody has any idea what the fights are going to be on the White House card. It is going to be the biggest card they've ever assembled, whether it be the biggest fights or obviously the biggest venue. And we'll see. Is that 100% how it's going to be? Me and Conor not fighting at the White House? I don't know. All I know is I can control what I can control, and that's me just doing exactly what I've been doing since day one, since I started the sport. So obviously it's not encouraging. It's not great to hear. But I've also heard, many things that were not encouraging that turned out to be not true or just flat out false. So we just keep on going, man, until the fights get announced, until Conor McGregor gets announced his next opponent, until I do or do not get announced as his next opponent, or do not get announced on being on the being on the White House card. Until then, man, all we can do is just hope and pray.
Meanwhile, Michael Chandler's reaction to all this news was absolutely fascinating to watch. He admitted that hearing Dana shut down their fight was disappointing, and you could see it in his face that this genuinely hurt. But here's what makes Chandler such a professional and why he's survived so long in this game. He didn't panic. He didn't start throwing tantrums on social media or demanding meetings with Dana. Instead, he basically said, "Look, I've heard this before." He's been through enough ups and downs in combat sports to know that what Dana says today might be completely different from what happens next week. Words change fast in this business, and contracts get signed when the money makes sense. Chandler's playing the long game here, staying ready and staying professional while everyone else is losing their minds over rumors.
I am human, so I'm not going to lie and say that it wasn't exactly encouraging. Would I have rather not have heard it? Of course, but anything short of, yeah, that's definitely a fight we're looking at. Chandler and Conor are 100% going to fight each other, and they're definitely probably going to fight each other at the White House. Anything short of that is going to be deflating, right? So you just got to kind of take it as it comes, and know that you are not in control. Know that they're going to say what they want to say, and they're going to do what they want to do, and I'm just going to be along for the ride. No, I wouldn't say deflated. I wouldn't go as far as to say deflated, because I've still got the confident expectancy that I'm fighting Conor McGregor on the White House lawn. So until I am proven otherwise, we'll just continue in this course of action until the announcement gets made. That's where we're.
What's really smart about Chandler's approach is how he's positioning himself as the reliable option. He knows that Dana calling their potential fight old talk might just mean it feels stale from a promotional standpoint, not that it's impossible. So instead of begging for the fight, he's reminding everyone why he's the safest bet for a massive event like this. Chandler always shows up. He always signs when they offer him fights. He always delivers exciting performances. He's not out here making demands or holding up negotiations with ridiculous requests. And in a sport where fighters regularly pull out of big fights for various reasons, that reliability is worth its weight in gold. If the UFC needs someone they can absolutely count on for their White House card, Chandler is basically saying, "I'm your guy."
And if you ask me, that actually makes a lot of sense. Of course, Dana White came out recently. He was on a podcast. He was asked about the likelihood of Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor, and Dana shut it down. He said, "No, listen, that was 2 years ago. It's passed by."
I know there's all the talk of Michael Chandler and Conor. Do you see that as a realistic thing?
No,
happening?
I mean, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, so that's not nothing you'd entertain for the White House.
No.
Poor old Michael Chandler sat on the sidelines like a good little boy, like McGregor called him, said, "You'll do as you're told."
You want to do 185, I'll do 185.
You'll do what you're told.
And he did. He sat around and he waited and he waited and some more. Didn't get it. Fought Paddy Pimblett in the meantime. Got whooped off Paddy Pimblett, which is why next weekend we have the first UFC event on Paramount Plus, and it is Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim title. I'll be there in Vegas for that, and there's a lot of content coming your way about that. But anyway, so Michael Chandler is out of the equation. Who's it gonna be? Because I do believe that Conor McGregor will be on the White House card.
But Michael Bisping just made this point that completely shifted how I'm thinking about this whole situation. He said the White House event only works if Conor is in a fight that feels massive without being overly risky competitively. And once Chandler got shut down for that spot, everything changes. This isn't about rankings anymore. This isn't about who deserves what based on wins and losses. This is about creating a moment that feels bigger than sports, a spectacle that casual fans will actually care about. Bisping nailed it when he said the UFC would still push incredibly hard to get Conor on that card regardless of who the opponent is, because Conor's star power is what makes the entire event worth doing in the first place.
You know, Conor McGregor, who recently got married, who's kind of had a transformation. He went down to Peru or somewhere and he did ayahuasca and he went on a spiritual journey. He's a changed man. He's born again.
And I'm saved. I am healed.
Hey, fair play to the guy. Fair play to the guy. And I'll tell you what, when you do see clips of him online, he does look healthier. He does look less puffy. And you do see clips of him out there training. So the man's getting ready for something. And a lot of people, because obviously I have a podcast and we'll be back on Monday, by the way, me and Felder, so tune in for that. A lot of people are like, yeah, McGregor's done. Listen, a lot can change. The man's still only, I think he's 37 years old, okay? So he's not like he's that old yet. Yeah, he's at the tail end of his career. Even though, like Mike Tyson, he said he wants to do this for the rest of his life. He's at the tail end of his career. But 3 years, 4 years away, right? A lot can change if you lock in, if you get disciplined, if you get rid of all the bad habits, if you abandon all the yes men, if you get rid of all the distractions and you get in the gym. It's not unthinkable to think that Conor McGregor could get just somewhere near the form that he has.
Here's where Bisping really opened my eyes, though. He talked about Conor with this refreshing level of honesty that you don't usually hear from analysts. He didn't pretend this is the same unstoppable Conor from 2016, but he also pushed back hard against anyone saying Conor is finished. What he focused on were the visible changes. We can all see Conor looks healthier, seems more grounded, and is clearly training for something specific and important. Bisping's point was elegant and simple. Conor doesn't need to be peak Conor to make this return work. He just needs to be focused and competitive enough to justify the massive spotlight this fight will receive. And based on what we're seeing from his training footage, that version of Conor might actually be achievable. This is where Bisping tied everything together in a way that actually makes sense. He said this card doesn't need a belt on the line to be successful. It needs massive stars and electric energy that grips the audience from start to finish. In his expert opinion, a Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal matchup checks more boxes than almost any other option currently available. It's loud, it's familiar, and it has that throwback feel that casual fans will instantly connect with. Both guys are past their championship prime, but still dangerous enough to make it competitive. Both have massive personalities that will sell the fight effortlessly. And most importantly, neither one has anything left to prove rankings-wise, so they can just focus on putting on a show. Speaking of Masvidal, his response to all the speculation has been perfectly calculated. He confirmed that talks are happening, and there's real communication going on behind the scenes, so this isn't just internet fantasy booking. But he was also smart enough not to act like anything is guaranteed. He's projecting the cautious optimism of someone who's been around long enough to know that fights fall through all the time until contracts are signed. What was really interesting was his explanation for why this fight didn't happen years ago. He said it came down to timing and strategy back then. Conor needed safer matchups to maintain momentum, and Masvidal's relentless style wasn't that. But now it's different. This isn't about chasing titles or climbing rankings. This is about two massive names coming together for one unforgettable moment. But here's where Dana White just crushed everyone's dreams again. When asked directly about Conor versus Masvidal, Dana acted like he hadn't even seen the online chatter and doesn't pay attention to MMA rumors on social media. He made it sound like everything fans are discussing online is basically meaningless noise that has no impact on actual decision-making. From his tone and demeanor, it was crystal clear that a Conor versus Masvidal fight hasn't been seriously discussed behind the scenes yet. He reiterated that the White House card isn't being built based on fan speculation or social media buzz. The actual matchmaking hasn't even started, and everything will be handled when they sit down to build the card properly. So here's exactly where we stand right now, and why this entire situation is absolutely fascinating. No opponent is officially confirmed, no contracts are signed, and the White House card remains completely wide open. But Conor McGregor isn't waiting around for announcements or official confirmations. He's already deep in training camp, putting in the kind of work that suggests he knows something the rest of us don't. While fans, fighters, and media personalities are all throwing out their wildest guesses about potential opponents, Conor is moving with the singular focus of someone preparing for the biggest fight of his comeback. Whether it's Chandler, Masvidal, Geith, or some completely unexpected opponent we haven't even considered, Conor is making sure he'll be ready for anyone. And honestly, that might be the smartest approach of all, because in this business, the only thing you can control is your own preparation. So here's my question for you. Who do you think makes the most sense for Conor's return? And do you believe he can still perform at the level needed to justify all this hype? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one. The real kicker in all of this is what's happening with the betting markets right now, because the money never lies in combat sports. Despite all of Dana's deflection and non-committal answers, the odds are moving like insiders know something concrete is about to drop. Conor's odds to fight on the White House card have actually shortened over the past week, which tells you that serious money is being placed by people who don't gamble on rumors. When you see that kind of movement without any official announcements, it usually means someone with real information is making calculated bets. The most interesting part is that Chandler's odds haven't completely tanked despite Dana calling their potential fight old talk. Smart money knows that what Dana says in press conferences and what actually happens when contracts get negotiated are two completely different things. But here's something nobody is talking about that could change everything: Conor's legal situation and how it might be affecting these negotiations behind the scenes. We all know he's been dealing with various legal issues, and while none of them have resulted in serious consequences, the UFC has to consider the optics of putting him on such a high-profile card. The White House event isn't just another pay-per-view where they can control the narrative. This is going to have political figures, mainstream media attention, and scrutiny from people who don't normally follow MMA. One bad headline between now and fight night could turn what's supposed to be a celebration into a public relations nightmare. That might explain why Dana is being so cagey about confirming anything. They need to make sure Conor can stay out of trouble long enough to make it to fight night without any distractions. Here's what's absolutely wild about Conor's current training footage, though. He's not just preparing physically. He's clearly working on specific technical adjustments that suggest he knows exactly what style of opponent he's going to face. Watch his footwork drills, and you'll see he's emphasizing lateral movement and cage cutting, which points toward preparing for someone who likes to circle and create angles. His sparring partners are all southpaws, which immediately eliminates half the potential opponents people have been speculating about. Either his team is being incredibly thorough and preparing for multiple scenarios, or they have inside information about who he's actually going to fight. Knowing how Conor operates, I'd bet on the latter. He's never been the type to waste time on generic preparation when he could be drilling specific game plans. And speaking of game plans, John Kavanagh just dropped some hints in a recent interview that flew completely under the radar. He mentioned that Conor's approach to this comeback is fundamentally different from his previous returns because they're not trying to recapture his old fighting style. Instead, they're building a completely new version of Conor McGregor that accounts for his current physical condition, his evolved mindset, and the reality of where he is in his career. Kavanagh specifically said they're focusing on efficiency over flash, precision over volume, and fight IQ over pure aggression. That sounds like they're preparing for a veteran opponent who can't be overwhelmed with pure athletic ability, someone who's going to make Conor think his way to victory rather than just outwork them. The business side of this situation is getting absolutely insane too, because we're not just talking about fight purses anymore. Sources close to the negotiations are saying that Conor's team is pushing for equity stakes, merchandise percentages, and broadcast revenue sharing that would set completely new precedents for fighter compensation. They're essentially trying to structure this like a partnership rather than a traditional fighter contract. The UFC has never agreed to terms like that before, but they've also never had an event with this much mainstream crossover potential. If Conor can deliver the kind of numbers they're projecting for this White House card, it might actually make financial sense to give him unprecedented control over his earning potential. But here's where things get really interesting from a strategic standpoint. Multiple industry insiders are now saying that the opponent selection isn't just about who makes the best fight. It's about who has the cleanest background check and the most professional media presence. Remember, this event is going to have political figures in attendance, major sponsors who don't usually touch combat sports, and mainstream media coverage that goes way beyond the typical MMA audience. They can't afford to have Conor's opponent say something controversial during fight week, or have any skeletons come out of their closet that could overshadow the event. That actually eliminates several of the names that have been floating around, because not every elite fighter has the kind of squeaky clean public image that this event requires. What's fascinating is how this is affecting the entire lightweight and welterweight divisions while everyone waits for this decision to get made. Legitimate contenders are stuck in limbo because they don't know if their potential opponents are going to get pulled into this Conor situation. Title eliminators are being delayed, rankings are getting stale, and fighters who should be staying active are instead waiting to see if they might get the call for the biggest payday of their careers. It's creating this ripple effect throughout multiple divisions where nobody wants to take a fight that might prevent them from being available if the Conor opportunity suddenly opens up. The psychological warfare aspect of this whole situation is absolutely masterful too. By training publicly and posting footage while keeping his opponent a mystery, Conor is forcing every potential opponent to prepare for him without knowing if they're actually going to get the fight. Chandler, Masvidal, Gietz, and whoever else is in consideration all have to stay in shape and adjust their training just in case they get the call. Meanwhile, Conor gets to prepare specifically once he knows who he's fighting, while his opponent has been splitting their focus for months. It's the kind of mental chess match that Conor has always excelled at, using uncertainty and media manipulation to gain advantages before the fight even gets announced. Here's something that just occurred to me that could be the real reason for all this secrecy. What if they're planning multiple announcements? What if the White House card isn't just about Conor's return, but about launching an entire new era of how the UFC presents their biggest events? Think about it, they could announce Conor's fight, then immediately follow it with news about other massive matchups, new broadcast deals, international expansion plans, or even acquisition announcements that would completely reshape the sport. The level of attention this card is going to generate gives them a platform to make announcements that would normally require separate press conferences and media campaigns. The international implications of this event are getting crazy too, because the White House setting automatically makes this about more than just American audiences. This fight is going to be broadcast in countries where MMA is still trying to gain mainstream acceptance, and having it associated with American political power and prestige could open doors that the UFC has been trying to unlock for years. Conor's global fanbase combined with the political backdrop could make this the most watched combat sports event in history outside of boxing's biggest moments. That kind of reach justifies almost any financial concessions they have to make to get Conor to sign on the dotted line. So here's my final take on where this is all heading, and why I think we're going to get an announcement sooner than anyone expects. The UFC can't let this speculation continue much longer without it starting to hurt them. Every day that passes without confirmation gives competitors time to plan counter-programming, allows other promotions to try stealing thunder with their own announcements, and risks the story going stale from overexposure. My prediction is that we get official word within the next 2 weeks, and when it drops, it's going to be bigger than just a fight announcement. This whole thing feels like it's building toward a moment that redefines what's possible in combat sports, and Conor McGregor is going to be right at the center of it all, just like he's always been throughout his entire incredible career.